Welcome back, friends of the shop. So today we're going to be taking a look at chainsaw-proof boots. Will they really stop a full-size professional saw from cutting your toes off? I was down at the local logging shop and was talking to the owner, and he was telling me this is the new thing. This is what the guys are using, and he had a whole wall of them. So apparently somebody's buying them. It's a traditional pack style of boot, but apparently it's completely impervious to chainsaw. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's very heavy. When I could contrast these with a traditional, like a Nix Wildlander logging boot, it's I'd say it's even heavier, and these are not light. This is, of course, caulked. It has the spikes on the bottom. Kind of an interesting history on caulking of boots. You know, the old term was hobnailing. You've probably heard of hobnail boots. As far back as I think that I've seen, the first time that those were used that I'm aware of was the Roman soldiers. They fought, and you know, you don't think about it too much about the importance of footwear, but as a soldier. But can you imagine, you know, when you are man against man, when you're fighting for your life, if you were to slip or not have a good purchase on the ground, that's the difference between life or death, right? Well, they would take their sandals and they would, the blacksmith or whoever would pound nails in them so that the metal, not only did they last a lot longer, so the metal's coming in contact with the ground, but when they were fighting in mud or slippery surfaces, having those metals sticking down there would give them additional traction. Well, guys have been using hobnails for years, and fast forward up to the logging boots for probably the last 150 years or so. They do what they called caulking them, C-A-U-L-K. It's been shortened, and no one really knows why, to cork. I don't know if caulk and cork are so similar that they got confused, but in this area in the Pacific Northwest, it's pretty much referred to as corked boots. That's a boot that has spikes on the bottom. Why do they need that? Well, the original ones started because of the guys would work on the log rafts. Now, we have a lot of rivers in this area, and the cheapest, the most cost-effective way to move timber back in the day was in the water. So they would drag it down to the rivers, and they would tie it together in these massive rafts, and there were guys, their full-time job was going around there managing these rafts, tying things together, cabling everything, and you've got wet, slippery logs, and they decided to put spikes in their boots so that they would have traction. Not only that, but the guys up in the forest wear them as well, especially in the rainforest of the Pacific Northwest. Everything is so slippery, and you no more step on something and you're down and you can get hurt. And when you're slipping and falling off of logs with a big chainsaw in your hand, I mean, that's obviously very dangerous. So they use them as well. It gives you absolutely purchase, and it just grips into everything. It's funny when you go into logging towns up north of here, there's a lot of stores that have signs that say no caulk boots in the store. No corks. You know, they tear their boots up, or they tear the store up so bad. So here you can see the caulking. These, of course, are replaceable. There's a special tool, I guess similar to golf shoes or so. Mrs. W's mom came out and was asking me, what are those for? And I said, those are my winter golfing boots. She wasn't quite sure if I was telling her the truth or not. Rubber pack bottom. So here's what they seem to be concerned with is the toe. Okay, coming from the operator's position, where are you likely to put a saw or have a saw hit you, right? It's going to be on the toe, maybe up here, kind of on your instep. So you can see here, these things have a very burly and thick, some sort of anti-chainsaw material that we're going to put to the test here. The upper is just, of course, just soft leather, nothing extraordinary there. I wonder if they put anything in the heel, if that's supposed to be anti-chainsaw there. I don't think so. If a guy's cutting his heel off, you've really got some problems. I think the biggest threat is going to come from the front right here. I've been scratching my head as to how to stick this to the stump so that the chainsaw doesn't run it off, and I thought we'd start by can we nail it to the... Here we go. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to nail it with a 16-penny nail. We'll toe nail it in here, and that should keep it from going too far. Well, I can see no chainsaw is going to be cutting through that. What do we have there? We've got it glued on. Oh, that's some good glue too. we have a full steel safety toe there. So, which is good and bad. Now, there's always trade-offs with the safety toe, right? I have heard of instances of things being dropped on these, crushing guys' toes off. But you could always say, well, what would happen to his toes if it hadn't have been there, right? The other thing with these is they're very cold. Once this gets cold in a cold environment, it's really hard to keep your feet warm. So there's always trade-offs to everything. So if you were to put the chainsaw on the tip there, even here on the side, I think you would be completely safe. Let's try across the instep here. Now the instep is a totally different deal there. That took some effort. Almost, I would say it took as much effort as it would take to get through a piece of wood. So if you were really determined to cut your foot off and you had the time and you're willing to push hard enough, yeah, you can get through the boot. But as you guys saw, the chainsaw immediately came in contact with this inner layer here. And that really started to slow it down. So whatever this rubber, I'd like to see what that rubber stuff is. Whatever that rubber stuff is, that brown stuff in there, that is really tough. It's very thick, which is great for chainsaw. You can see it's even stitched right there. But it makes for a bulky, heavy boot, for sure. A kind of a clumsy boot. But I have no doubt that if you were to drop something on that is going to offer a tremendous amount of protection there. Let's take a look and see what we have here. How come I couldn't cut through that? Oh, there you go. So what did we learn here? Well, we learned that these are tough old boots. Would I buy them? Would I wear them? I would not. The only way I would wear these is if I had no choice, if they were required by my employer. And it's sad to say it's kind of going down that road. What you have is, with OSHA and Safety Sally, the guys at OSHA, I know they're just doing their job, but they don't have anything other to do. There are people that their job is to come up with safety regulations, right? And if they don't produce these regulations, then they're not doing their job. And so they seem to stack and stack and stack. Unfortunately, the men and women that make these regulations oftentimes are very far removed from the actual folks that are doing the work. And they put things upon us that are just kind of burdensome. So I get that. So a guy's got to weigh the risk of things. But you can find yourself, you can become so bogged down with safety and safety gear that you can no longer be productive. And the truth of the matter is that the work that we do in logging and iron work and commercial fishing, it's just inherently dangerous, and there's going to be risks. And sometimes trying to make everything too safe ultimately makes things more dangerous. So it's not for me to judge what's right for you. It would be nice having a boot that was waterproof. They're probably reasonably warm in the wintertime. A lot less maintenance than coming home after a long day's work and greasing your boots all the time. But the negative side of it is they're very heavy. They're not particularly comfortable, and they're just sloppy. They're just, how rubber boots are. They're always going to be rubber boots. They're not like a leather boot. And this would be a miserable thing to wear in the summertime. It would sweat really bad. It doesn't breathe, where your leather is a natural and it does breathe. So I don't know. It's your call, but they're not super expensive. I actually bought these because they were size 14, and there's just not a lot of guys that want 14s. I think they were like $58, so it's pretty hard to beat. I think to buy these for normal sizes, you'd probably be 100 and a quarter or so. But it's definitely a pretty well together put together boot. Not going to be a rebuildable boot, but I imagine it'll last a long time. But it's definitely going to keep your feet safe. So I think the better option would just be to be careful, practice, moving carefully. Always engage your chain brake on your saw. Wear normal sturdy footwear, because the truth is a good heavy leather boot is going to offer some layer of protection, and most likely you're going to know as soon as that comes in contact with your foot, you're going to get that throttle shut off. So kind of comes down to personal accountability. But I thought that was kind of an interesting test, a new concept here. I get it. All right, well, thanks for watching. May God bless you and your families. Keep my family in your prayers. We always appreciate that more than anything. And we'll see you guys on the next video.
Okay.
We got a Swedish kitchen here.
I've got my best helper here. We're making cardamom rolls, very delicious, and she used the rolling pin. Can you show Papa this?
Yeah.
Okay, show him what to do. Look. See?
And what put it in.
You are doing a great job. Have you been nice to Mama today? I've heard a little boss baby earlier.
Do you want to have this? Okay. We're supposed to do it before, but things are a little out of order here.
And what have you been making?
I have making cinnamon buns, but I put them in cupcakes forms, and I think it's just, then we're gonna put a little glaze on top of them, and then some, what did you call it, purge sugar.
That looks
Yeah.
so good. Are you guys baking some now?
Yeah, well, they had
After
to
the
raise,
Swedish meatballs.
they had to prove for about half an hour first.
Half hour.
Yeah.
And the boss baby, is she being helpful?
Yes.
I be eaten.
I'd be licking.
Hey,
Well, let's not put it back in there.
what are you
Show
doing?
Papa.
I can.
I've never seen that before. Licking your rolling pin?
We might not put that back in the bread.